Alright, there we go. I kind of just set the camera up a little bit more lazily today. There we go. So, we just got done with the Nintendo Direct stream. So I figured I'd do a tiny bit of 3D modeling work to try to wrap up my analog stick project that I had going on. I don't think this is going to take very long. This is kind of like the... Did I enter the right title, by the way? Yeah, I did. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead, just really quickly wrap this up. I decided to roll back a little bit with the top part, which is what I'm working on here. I did a tiny bit of stuff off stream, but most of it is still unfinished. So I have the base part here, and I have this little insert or opening finished. Because how this is going to end up working in the end is the analog stick itself, including that little inner part there. If I can get to it, that is. How this is going to work, at least in the end, is it'll actually insert into this base that I created here, kind of like this. So I'm going to go ahead and hide this for now, that we don't really need any of that visible for this part of the project. So what I'm going to start working on is I'm going to start kind of getting ready to wrap this up. So one thing I want to do real quick is I already have all the measurements and things figured out from before. So what I need to do now is I just kind of have to bring this down a little bit. I'm going to bring it down by about, I don't know. I'm thinking let's do it by a quarter, like that, like 0.025 centimeters, maybe like 0.03 or maybe 0.05. Yeah, let's do like a half, let's do 0.05 centimeters. That looks pretty good to me. I don't think, and it's okay to have that a little more rounded out on the top there. And now what I'm going to do is extrude again. When I'm using 3D cursor, I don't want to use that. Let's use bounding box. One thing I'm going to do real quick is I'm going to just kind of see if I just focus it in like that, it's going to round that out too much. So what I'll do instead, I'll extrude it like this. I'll just do a tiny... Let me go out of the subdivision surface real quick so I can just see what I'm doing a little bit better. I'm going to do like, I don't know, 0.09 maybe. Actually, for this, this doesn't really matter as much. You'll see why in a second. I'm going to just zoom that. I'm just going to put that to 0. We're going to zoom it all the way in. This makes a little tri-shaped fan like this. And then I'm just going to take mesh, clean up. Let's merge by distance. I'm just going to, yep, that's good. It's going to get rid of those 31 vertices that were extra. I think what I'll do now to make this flat, because you see it's kind of curving in, and we don't want that. That has to do with the subdivision surface, not smoothing that out. So what I will do is I'm going to add another edge loop here, and then I'm just going to factor that backwards by -0.9. And that is going to create something like this. You can't see it off without the subdivision surface. You can see right here. Did I do that correctly, though? I don't know if I actually want it there. Let me just go out of that for a second. Oh, I see what's happening. Okay. Alright, so I actually messed up a little bit. You see, I forgot an important detail before creating that little vertice here. So I'm going to get rid of that for now. Scale this. I'm going to not 3D cursor. I'm just going to extrude that and scale that down just to that for now. That doesn't really matter as much. I'm going to make that as small as possible, though. What I'm going to do now, I'm not going to close it up, though. I'm not going to merge it yet. The reason for that is I need to add an edge loop first. I'm going to, whoopsies. Yep, no, there we go. -0.9. Or is it 0.9? No, it's 0.9. And that is going to, by adjusting this value right here, I can get this line as close to the edge as possible. Now, we don't want these merging, though, so we don't want it too close. But I can keep that flatter, but allow it to still have some smoothing to it. Which I think, on top here, it's still smooth, but the bottom here, it's completely rigid, and that's what I want. Now that I've done that, I'm actually going to add... I'm just going to begin to work on this. So what I will do for now, for a tiny little thing here, I'm just going to scale that down as close as physically possible to the model. It's very small, very hard to notice what's happening there. And I'm going to add some more edge loops. I'm going to save this first, though. I'm going to add, let's say, 5 edge loops for now. Let's do maybe 4, actually. You'll see why in a moment. Now that I've added those edge loops, I'm going to go all the way back down to this. I'm just going to deselect everything. Select just this little spot here. And I'm going to now hit Merge by Distance under Cleanup. That's going to now be just one little point. Alright, and here's our analog stick, actually. That's what it's going to look like on the top. It's pretty good. Now, the only issue is it needs to have some sort of gripping tech in there. We need to be able to... First, I'm going to mark which one's the middle here. I'm going to add, just temporarily add a vertex group. So I can select and deselect it so I know what I'm doing. That way, I will actually be able to remember that. I need to remember the middle part right here later, so that's good to note right now. But now what I'm going to do, just as a test run, I'm going to save first, but as a test run here, what I'm going to do is we're going to apply the Subdivision Surface modifier. I need to remember what it's set to, though. My computer's going to be a little bit beefed, I think, a bit, because it's going to have to use a lot of resources for all of this. It did something a little bit interesting in the middle. I don't know if I like that. We'll see how it looks. I don't think I like this all that much. I may have to fix that. Yeah, I think I need to fix that. That's not what I wanted. Alright, what I'm going to do now is hit plus just over and over and over. Until we get to about the edge. I would say it's right about here. And now what I'm going to do is take that minus a couple. I'm going to do minus 0.05 z on the z-axis. I'm going to deselect 1, 2, 3, 4. Maybe just 1, 2. That might be a little too deep, actually. No, actually, we want that deep. I'm going to do a quarter of that, actually. 0.025. We'll try that. And what I'm going to do is deselect and reselect, but I'm going to, every time, I'm going to raise it up and down. Just like this. And a pattern. I'm going to go out of orthographic mode just to give you a better look. You might start to realize now what I'm up to. What I'm doing right now is I'm creating some sort of gripping for the analog stick. So what I'm doing is I'm making an alternating wave sort of pattern right now. Until I get to like a certain point. Sort of like that, actually. I might have to fix the bumpiness here a little bit. I might actually do that now. If I can. Maybe make that more round somehow. I don't know how exactly I would do that, though. I don't think I can do that, so I'm not going to really worry about it. But here's a concept of the shape I want. And I do have to say, it's pretty close to what I want, actually. It's not quite what I want, but it's very close. But I do like this, actually. These little ridges would theoretically add better gripping, but it is just a prototype. I gotta check something. I got a notification. Let me check this real quick. Okay. We're good. Okay. So anyway, back to what I was doing now. So I think what I'll do, I'm going to undo all of this stuff. Hopefully we don't get a crash. I have my reasons for undoing that. I want to bring back the subdivision for a moment, because what I'm going to actually do is we're going to delete this little vertex here. I have my reasons. Instead, what I'm going to do is just make another object, a smaller little ring, and then I'm just going to use fill. And that's it. I'll just fill it like this for now. Actually, it creates some weird artifacts. We're not going to fill it like that. Instead, I'm just going to do this, extrude it again, and make it 0. Then just get rid of the, just merge that together, and I'll create one little point. That's it. Hopefully that little extra ring I added here will maybe alleviate some of the potential problems. Let me see how that subdivides, though. Well, it's certainly less. Which really is all we need. Give that like right about the edge, and I'll just go back a couple. I'm going to GZ. Do that same trick. I'm going to actually zoom that out a little bit more from the edge. That same thing I did before. Whoops. A little mistake there. Whoa, that's a little too high of a value there. Yeah, that's more along the lines of what I wanted. Actually, I keep that part nice and flat. Right down the center here. Yeah, let's keep that part alone. And there we go. And now, if I go to rendered view here, you can see it's nice, smooth looking analog stick part here. So these nice little ridges, which should theoretically add better. Put the barn full. I think a box fan fell over. That's what that big old clunk was. Ugh. So anyway, let me get back to it here. There's not much left to go on this little analog stick, really. Most of the work's been done already. The only thing left now is to work on maybe adding, potentially, the rest of this is optional at this point, but maybe add on some better gripping. So that's the whole middle part right there. So I have an idea. Alright, so there are about 1, 2, 3, 4 faces, so I have a little bit of an idea here. I'm going to take this right here. And just excluding the z-axis, I'm going to scale it down. I would say by 0.099. Something, just a 0.9. 0.99. Maybe even not even that. Maybe like something like 995. Something very, very specific and very small to change. Something you really wouldn't even remotely notice. So I'm basing this loosely on the Nintendo Switch analog sticks, so I'm just kind of doing something similar to that. So I'll select like 4 of these again, and what I'm going to do instead is leave these alone. So we'll skip those, and then go 1, 2, 3, 4, and I should be able to do that same thing again. Only 3, so I need to go down 1 more. So 0.995 again, excluding the z-axis. You can see I've added these little grips slots in between here. So I'm going to continue to do that. 1, 2, 3, 4. Skip that. And I should be able to hit, select a few of these. Scale it, excluding the z-axis again. And we get these little ridges in the analog stick. And that's going to add better gripping compared to... because it's made out of plastic. There's no rubber here. It's just plastic. So if I'm going to design an analog stick that's made of only plastic and there's no rubber on the end of the cap, because how a control stick works is very simple. On the stick itself, you can see like one right here, there's actually, this is not plastic on the very, very top, on the round part here. This is actually rubber. So everything on the top here, not like on the actual stick part itself, but everything on this round circular part on the top is actually rubber. You just don't really, you may not realize it. So the problem is this stick is likely being made entirely out of plastic. I could separate these two and make a rubber part if I wanted to, but I'd rather just focus on using plastic for now. Just to cut down on the costs. Maybe eventually I'll work on a rubber prototype, but for base prototype for the top here. But I feel like that would take more work and require more assembly. So for now, I'll leave it be. I might add maybe one more grip part here. So I'll do 1, 2, 3, 4. Set 4 faces, and then just skip that middle section. I'll zoom in again, minus the z-axis. I may have to actually zoom that in even more, potentially. Or scale that in more. That looks good. And I'll do one more time for now on the bottom. What I'm just basically doing right now is I'm making it has to be very consistent. It has to be very, very consistent. It has to be very similar in terms of consistency. It needs to be similar dimensions all around. It needs to be symmetrical as well. And a little voice crack there, but I don't know if I can actually do any more scaling without maybe making things too much. No, I can add more. I can add more slots here. And these are just specifically for gripping. Like, they don't... Aesthetically, they actually are pretty cool, aesthetically speaking. But the main purpose behind these is to add on some better gripping. Yep. And let me change the lighting real quick just to see. I'm going to work in Blender, what's called the workspace engine. To put it simply, that just means the rendering engine is basically just designed to use like just very basic rendering stuff, just very basic stuff, just to help with making things usually like this. Let me go to matte cap for a moment. Let me give it a different matte cap, like a rainbow one, so I can see what I'm doing better. Yeah, I like that. I don't think I want to do any more. Go back to studio lighting now. I don't know if I really want to add any more grips here. I think this is honestly pretty good, but I might want to see if I can maybe get another one on the top here. But I don't know if I can really do that. Not being beneficial anymore. Well, I theoretically could keep going, actually. Let's give it a try. Yeah, we might actually be able to do that. It might actually work. We're getting into some weird territory, though, as we're starting to having to change the camera angle a bit. Hold on. Did I not leave enough space? Oh, I didn't do something right. Yeah, I messed up. I'm glad I checked that. Yeah, I messed up a little bit there. I didn't make that wide enough. Let me check the top one I just did, too. Make sure I didn't mess that up either. I'm going to switch to matte cap. It's very hard to tell what I'm doing right now. Oh, I did mess that up. Yes, I did. Okay, gotta undo that. Glad I caught myself there, because that would have been a little unfortunate. But I'm glad I caught that little mistake, as that would have been a very unfortunate mistake to have later, because I couldn't easily fix that later if I didn't catch it now. I may even want to raise that up just a little bit, maybe, to give it more consistency. Maybe like 0.001 on the z-axis, just to give it a little more of a consistent feel to it. Just lower that one as well, so that maybe it's a little bit more consistent. I think that's as far as I'll go with the grips. I don't think it needs any more. I think that should be good. And even this might not be necessary, per se. And ladies and gentlemen, I think we have our final result. The prototype analog stick. Almost. It's almost done anyway. Almost. It's almost done, but not quite. Because I need to do one last thing. A couple of things here. For one, I will have to merge these two objects together, which won't be too hard to do. Another thing I have to do, though, is I also have to merge these two as well. I have to merge these two objects and make a solid part on the top here as well. So I have some work to do. So let's begin. First thing, before I move on, let me go ahead and get the reference cap here. Not that one. The other one. So this is like the stock height. Around the stock height of an actual SN30 stick. I want to make that a little taller. So what I'll do, I'm going to start from like the bottom here using the 3D cursor. I'll have the pivot point be the 3D cursor down here so it goes up and down like this. I think what I will do, I'm going to hide this for a second. What I'm going to do, is I'm going to essentially raise this up by a certain amount of centimeters. To be exact, I think a 0.25, I think I'm going to do 0.1 centimeters. I don't want to do 0.1 centimeters. I think I'll do maybe 0.05 centimeters taller. Just a tiny, tiny bit. So what I have to do to figure this out, I'm going to use my measuring tool, take one end here, vertically, and go to the other end here. The stick itself is about 0.45 centimeters high. So, now that I know this information, I know for a fact that I want to. So we can go, actually I gotta zoom it back down. And the other height, the default height, is actually 0.4. So I'm adding 0.05 to this height. So what I want to do, I have a percentage calculator off screen here. No, not Microsoft Bing. I'm going to take 0.044, make it 0.045. All right. Actually, I did the math wrong here. But it's still I think it's still going to be the same. Yep. Okay. So all I got to do is scale this by 1.125. Exactly. And that will get the oh yeah. Except we want to exclude. We only want to do it on Z though. I only want to do this on the Z axis. I don't want to pan it out on the sides like this. I want to only have it go up like this. It should be, if I check that measurement, it's doing something else. Yeah, it was doing something else. That's why it's off. That is exactly 0.45 centimeters tall. 0.45 tall exactly. And it just adds a tiny bit of raise on it just to give it a little extra leverage. For this version of the prototype, I want it to be very close to the original height of the stock analog sticks in terms of like the size of this right here. I do, however, want to also make it compatible with certain accessories for the Nintendo Switch, which is why I'm adding a little bit of a raise to it here. That's why I raised it up just a little bit. Because one thing I want to do is I want to make sure that it's going to be compatible with things like maybe the Control Freak series of models, right? The last thing I'm going to do is, first things first, let's get ready to merge these all together. So what I'm going to do first is take the stick here. And what I'm going to do is, first I'm going to bring the cursor to selected. That'll bring it right to this bottommost line right here, which I've currently selected. If I hide that, you can see it's the bottommost line right here that I'm selecting. So I'm going to bring the cursor to that. And then what I'm going to do afterwards, I'm going to go out of this. I'm going to go to Object and set Origin to 3D Cursor. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my little analog stick I just worked on, go to the very top, which happens to be already selected, and bring Cursor to Selected. So I brought the cursor to that line. So now what I'm going to do is Object, or I'm going to go Shift S, and then I'm going to select Selection to Cursor. I'm going to reset the origin to geometry, or center of mass now. Although, actually, that doesn't really matter for the stick itself, this part itself. This is going to get merged. But what I just did is I basically just raised this entire stick to the top of this, so that's going to make merging more accurate and a lot easier. Oopsies. The next thing I have to do, actually, is add a subdivision surface to this one right here. Because I didn't do that yet, so. What that's going to do is make this just very detailed. Now, actually, I think it might be a little too detailed for this. So what I'll do, make it 2. I want it to have similar detail to the top stick here. That should be pretty good. It's very smooth, as you can see. It's very, very smooth and very round. So it should be very highly detailed. The next thing I have to do now is join these two objects together. I'm going to start with the cap, top of the cap, and the base itself. So stick right here. We actually already have the lines we need selected. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select Edge, and I'm going to hit Bridge Edge Loops. And what I'm going to do is make that linear. And I'm just going to add more cuts. And the reason I'm adding more loop cuts is to make it similar. I'm going to add like 7, maybe 7 loop cuts. And that's going to make the transition process. Let's do maybe, can we do blend path? No, I don't want to do blend path because it kind of does this. So, and blend surface doesn't really work quite that well either. So I'm going to set it to linear. I'm not a fan of the other stuff. I don't know if that does anything for... Let me experiment around there real quick. That does some very weird stuff. We don't really want to mess with that, I don't think. I'm just going to set that to linear. And there we go. And now I can create a little connector between these two now, which should very well help with the 3D printing process. Oh yeah, one thing I might want to do real quick is I want to recalculate the normals. That could be a little glitchy. I'm going to have to check that as well, make sure the normals are correct, but it should allow the stick itself to be properly connected to this base now. Let me check the normals real quick by going. I'm going to go up to view. Forget where it was exactly. There's a way to configure it. How did I do this again? There's a way I did this before. I'm still relearning Blender in a lot of ways. So bear with me. I'm still kind of refiguring things out. Because I very recently got back into the program, so it's a little hard to remember certain things. I don't remember what I was supposed to... I literally did this yesterday, too. I'm trying to tick a certain option so that I can see what... to check something, but I don't know how to do it. Let me Google this real quick. So am I in the wrong mode then? That's a little weird. It should be right up here, I think, right? I don't know. That's strange. It should be an option. That should definitely be an option somewhere. Oh, I think it's an edit mode thing, isn't it? Yep. That's why I couldn't figure it out. There's a lot of normals here, so it's very hard to tell what's happening, but believe me, this is very important to figure out now. I'm just kind of briefly checking to... It looks like a mess, a spaghetti mess, and that's exactly what it is. Except, I need to hide that reference. This is also going to tell me, though, what is going on with the normals. And basically, it's hard to explain what they are, but as long as they should be sticking away from the object... Let me zoom into like a spot like right here, right? Like these, it's hard to demonstrate, but they should always be sticking out away. Let me go to the edge of the stick, for example, so you can see better what I'm talking about here. You can see that like this line right here, for example, is sticking out from this. That's what really, for an object like this, that is exactly what should be happening. So if I can see that, that means that it's working. And again, it looks like a mess because there's a lot of detail in this model. A lot of detail. So it's very hard to tell what's going on there. But on a less detailed model that's not as high in polygon counts, like this one, it'd be a lot easier to tell. But I had to make sure that everything was more or less connected correctly. I think that leaves the next thing to merge is this. And now I can join these objects together. And now we have everything in one object. And now what I got to do, first thing I got to do is on the top here, I'm going to fill this in. So what we want to do is I'm going to use a little technique. I'm going to actually real quick go to the top of this model here. I'm going to hide the top of the, it's going to lag on me a bit. I'm going to hide the top part it doesn't really matter how I select it right now. I don't have to be precise about it. I'm just going to select the top of the analog stick and hide it temporarily. Not delete it, but hide it. Then what I'm going to do is we have this object right here. So first thing I want to do is, since this is supposed to be more or less of a solid object, I'm actually going to raise this up a bit. I don't know how tall this is. I don't think it has to be exact, but I think I want this particular object to be a little bit taller. It doesn't have to have an exact value, but I don't want it being the exact same size as the one part I worked on earlier with this. I don't want it to be the exact same part. If I go into wireframe, I don't want it to be the exact same as this. So what I need to do is tweak that. So I'm just going to, from the 3D cursor, I'm going to go into wireframe for this. Just so from the 3D cursor, I'm going to scale that up 1.1 on the z-axis. So it's a little taller. In fact, I might even go a little higher. Like, let's do like 1.25 on the z-axis. So it's a little taller than the original port. At least for my prototype. That's what we want. And now what I think I need to... Actually, I might actually have to do something else here. Actually, I may have to raise this up all the way... Well, no, I don't actually think I have to do that. I need to think about how this is going to get filled in. So I'm going to take this top part here. I need to fill that in. So I'm going to use edge or vertex, I guess, face, and I need to fill. And I think the regular fill does a fine job at filling that in. But now what we got to do is take this bottom part here and the very bottommost part of this. First, let me make sure. Those should already be on the same level, but let me double check. Yep, no changes. That's good. Now what I'm going to do is bridge the edge loops together. This is the last step, actually. I'm going to hit edge and bridge edge loops. It looks a little messed up. Let's make that a closed loop, I think, or loop pairs, I guess. It's a little bit messed up. That's not how it's supposed to look. It's completely filling that in. I think I know what's happening, though. I'm going to extrude this first, and then try it. I'm going to. I'm actually wrapping up now. Yep, let me go ahead and do that. Actually, like I said, this will probably be the last step for now. I'm going to bridge. Well, I'm not exactly sure what's happening. The loops don't exactly want to... I may have to do this later, or maybe off stream even, because it's having some trouble. I'm not sure why exactly, but it's having a lot of trouble bridging together, which is very strange. It usually doesn't give me this much trouble. Let me make sure I recalculate the normals, I guess. Let's see if that helps. I don't know why it's not wanting to, like, bridge together. It should absolutely do that without, like, flaw. Oh, it was a normal. Yep, okay, I figured it out. Yep, I figured out exactly what was going on there. It's an issue with the normals. So I had to recalculate the normals from the outside. And for some reason, the normals were messed up. Sometimes you have to recalculate or flip the normals around or do different things to fix certain problems that starts misbehaving, because the program otherwise won't know what to do. I guess I have to also add on extrude some additional stuff here. Then recalculate normals. Let's try that. And now I can bridge these together, and that's it. I'll add a few more cuts to make that a higher quality object. And that's it. It's done. Here's what it'll look like as the final product. It's going to look something. Combined, will look something. Excluding the graphical issues, it's going to look something like this. And that's it. Alright. Thank you for watching this little stream. I hope you enjoyed it. And I will see you again next time. Bye-bye.